So let me start with, you've been in Congress a short time. There's going to be some people, this is the first time they've heard you for more than a few minutes, meaning they may have gotten a piece of you, maybe seen something go viral. When it comes to communicating in the modern era, going viral matters, but going viral can be a double-edged sword. And I think you tell me, I feel like you've experienced both edges of that sword at times. How much of it is a necessary evil in your mind, and how much of this is just, hey, this is the way it works now, and this is the way I have to do it?
I don't think virality matters. That may not be a popular opinion,
Hmm.
but when I got elected, no one in my district ever expected or thought that I would go viral. So I don't think that it matters in the sense that I think people should say, if I'm going to be relevant in politics, then this is what needs to be done. We know that one of the most unpopular people in Congress, she has gone viral a lot. And, when it comes down to her being able to raise money, she's been able to raise money from every crevice of kind of the
Hmm.
country because of that. And that's kind of how she's been able to build a platform. But I
Hmm.
think
Has she
that you're
passed a bill?
right. Huh?
Has
Yeah,
she passed a
exactly.
bill
I
doing
don't
that?
I don't
Right,
think she has, right? Like,
right.
so
Yeah.
the things that really
I
will make
assume you're referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I am.
Yeah. No, I say
But
that because I think that's the, that's usually what happens if you want to be if you want to try to go that road, you're not going to actually get stuff done on the inside.
Absolutely. I think that is a risk that certain people run. It depends on like for what reasons, right? Like for instance, I was just applauding Lauren Underwood for an
Hmm.
exchange that she had this week with Christy Nome. And it went viral. I mean, it's kind of everywhere. Where Christy Nome is kind of wavering on, the Constitution and whether or
Hmm.
not, she
Right.
as secretary of the Department of Homeland should actually like follow it, right? I think that there are certain things that it absolutely is very important that that information gets out. And for some people, if I'm being honest, like a lot of people that may be listening in, they
Yeah.
obviously have time to do it. But the reality is that the average
That's right.
American is trying to figure out how they're going to put food on the table, a roof over their head, clothes on their kids'
Hmm.
backs. And so they only have time for a TikTok, right? Like they
Right.
only have those little moments. And so I do think it does bring value in that way. But as far as being an actual member of Congress, no, I think what matters most as a member of Congress is that you sit down and you do things like what we do, which is we send out weekly emails that are newsletters that give you pictures of the meetings that I've taken with
Hmm.
subtext on what happened in those meetings. You can see videos, video clips of me in committee. You can see me in district if that's where I was. And then we give out other information. We also send out mailers. We also do what we call community like office hours. So
Hmm.
we go out and we don't make people necessarily come in. So sometimes they're after hours, but they are in other parts of our district. So we've been to every single city multiple times and we
Hmm.
send out text messages with information. I think that's what matters in Congress because
Yeah.
ultimately, regardless of how viral a member may or may not be, at the
Right.
end of the day, you only get reelected one way. And that way is
Yeah.
by making sure that you are communicating with your district.
Well, I want to go in so many directions here, including Texas politics, but let me start with the Oversight Committee.
Oh God. What a place to
Because
start.
no, I mean, I sit there, look, I'm one of those journalists who always rolls their eyes when there's an oversight committee hearing, right? Because it feels like predictable partisan talking points, right? If it, depending on who's, you'll have one half of the questioners defending the person being questioned, and the other half, and then it's always like, oh, whoa, a member of the same party asked a tough question, right? That becomes the news rather than, let me ask you this. You've watched this now, you've participated. How can we improve oversight? And would it be better if there were no TV cameras?
It would absolutely be better if there were no cameras.
Yeah.
I'm sure that that will never happen. But it would,
I know C-SPAN is one of those things like, hey, look, I'm a sunshine guy, but I also don't believe in cameras in the courtroom. Give me audio. Give me all the audio in the world. I'll take all the live audio in the world. If we cameras in the courtroom gives us too many Lancitos, and
yeah,
that's not a good thing.
yeah. I think though, I mean, if you've got people, if you've got like a president that doesn't understand that he took an oath to
Mhm.
the Constitution, like to protect and defend it. I think you're giving them a little too much credit. Like we have people that are elected in government and truly don't understand how it works. And so, in order for oversight to work the way that it should,
Mhm.
then it honestly would take people that understand what we're supposed to be doing. For instance, today I had to have a DOGE subcommittee hearing.
Mhm.
And for everybody out in the general public, when they hear DOGE, they hear Department of Governmental Efficiency. This is all supposedly about efficiency. The reason
Right.
that we have had to fire a historic number of federal employees in such a short amount of time is because it's more efficient. Not true,
Mhm.
right? Like, but all of these things that we've experienced, the reason that, people may not have their life-saving
Mhm.
healthcare across the ocean is because they had to cut off USAID because it was efficient. Like that's what it was coined as. And my hearing today was about trans people fencing. I mean, our argument was, please tell me what part of, like, we read through the mission of
Mhm.
DOGE as they created the subcommittee. What does that have to do with anything? And then they even admitted, they were like, well, yeah, US fencing, we know that we don't give you any money. You get no federal dollar. What
So
are we
wait
doing?
a minute. Let me get this straight. The U.S. fencing team, as in like
It
the
was,
the sword fighting. Is that what we're
yes,
talking
this was
about?
all about fencing. This was about girls fencing. And I'm trying to think of the name of I'll get you the name of the
No, but
organization.
meaning that with the weird
Yes,
mask and all this
yes,
stuff. Yeah, sword
yes,
fighting. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. We had to have a hearing.
Sorry.
So
A
that's what I'm
hearing
saying.
on sword fighting. Okay.
I mean, so literally it's like, I mean, I hear you, right? But like these people don't even understand. And maybe they wouldn't have a hearing on that if there were no cameras. Like maybe. Like I
Well,
don't know.
that's the thing. I mean, that's would be one of my contentions is that you take away the incentive to essentially, perform for a base, political base, and in that
Yeah.
case, there's no doubt that's just performance, right? That's
Right.
just throwing chum into the water. Would it cut back on that? And I assume it would. But then again, would the country be even less informed about what Congress does, right?
Yeah,
Like that's you
exactly.
know. Let's talk about this internal. I don't know what you call it, debate. Uh, this is it a generational divide or an ideological divide inside the Democratic Party? And are they one and the same?
I think it's more ideological. I think that
Mhm.
you can find persons that absolutely believe that there needs to be a more aggressive kind of fight in this moment, and they're of all ages.
Mhm.
And when I think about some of, the strongest voices, I'm always going to say Maxine Waters is going to be like one of the first ones who's literally going to call out whatever. And Maxine is
Mhm.
like 86, 80.
Right.
I mean, she's like up there, right? And
Right.
I don't think anyone
I don't
would
hear a lot of
say
progressives saying that either Maxine Waters or Bernie Sanders are too old to be talking about these
correct.
things.
So
Right.
that's why I really don't think, I think that it's more so a mindset. And I think that
Mhm.
they are more so concerned about kind of those that are stuck in tradition and stuck in this idea of the institutions, while not recognizing that the institutions are literally burning around us, right? Like they're like over there, they've got their water hoses. They're like, nope, nope, we're
So
gonna.
I vacillate. Look, I'm one of these people. I vacillate between, hey, let's save the institution versus now let's rebuild the institution. Meaning like, you got to save what's left. You got to salvage what you have, right? And I understand that's probably an older mindset, right? One that says, "Oh, I'm back in my day, I remember this all came together."
Yeah.
Versus those that are newer to the situation going, "What are you talking about? Like that didn't work. That's why we're here."
Right. So I think it's more so our issue is more so how do you save the institution and what is worth salvaging, right?
Mhm.
Because when you think about some like a house burning, like if there's a child or a loved one in there, you're gonna go and like let me go get the kid, right?
Right.
Like forget the clothes, forget the pictures. And I
Mhm.
think that that's where we are. It's like what parts of this are worth saving because there are parts of this that failed us in the first place. And frankly, some of them that never worked anyway, like never worked in a way that they worked for all of us. But I think the biggest debate is like, how do you do that? Right. I think that is why there's the discussions about David Hogg and his approach to it. And it's like, do you go after, safe Democrats and decide that you're going to primary them? Or do you just say, never mind, like a Democrat is a Democrat, go after the Republicans because they are the ones that are the arsonists of this story? I think that like, it's about how you fight that we kind of differ. Or, you can look, the State of the Union is really the best example of like how everyone sees this moment differently, right? Like, it's like we went out, we campaigned, we were like, this fool is a dictator and he's going to try to tear everything down. And that was before the 100 days when we literally have receipts of him doing it, right? And he's up there and he's giving his State of the Union. And who is it that is most disruptive? A man in his 70s. It's Al Greene, someone who is of the civil rights era and believes in civil disobedience. And this whole
as the late John Lewis used to call it, good trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. And he believes in dealing with this completely differently. And then you had those that sat there and didn't do anything. Then you had those that had the signs that everybody got drove about. And then you had those of us that decided that we were going to walk out, right? I think that that's the issue. I think that in our hearts, none of us like what's going on. It's just a matter of we cannot get on a similar page of like, what does the response look like? What does the fight look like? And I think that's really our bigger issue. And I think that some people believe if you've been in the institution too long, that there's no way you are willing to fight back against it.